podcast. Greetings to one and all. I'm Michael Govier, and today's show will focus on Dream a Little Dream of Me. It's going to be a lot of fun today. We won't have Eric Brancham, though. He's on location thinking about life and society, and as he does that, it'll just be me and my old pal Travis Roy today, just the two of us. Would you prefer to be called just the two of us, gruesome twosome? Do you have another duality you'd like to offer?
Can I be Coleman and you can be Bobby? Does that sound good?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's actually apropos. How about that? That does have something to do with the film that we'll focus on today, Dream a Little Dream, which we'll do a little bit later. And we're going to cover our quarantine viewing picks. We'll do a little bit of movie chatter. And, of course, your emails. No, just kidding. There's no emails. But if you did email the show, cinema9pod@gmail.com is how you can do that. Travis, how you doing today? We're on a Saturday show here. We're, usually we try to do Thursdays, but, weird technological things happen. And then our friend Luke, by the way, he had his baby this morning. So that did happen. Congratulations to our friend Luke Hornbeck, who has created a child in this world.
Yeah. Big congratulations to Luke. I would definitely say that it's getting to the point that we're so irregular with our schedules that it's boring to explain it and complain about it and be like, oh, we got together on a blah, blah. Who fucking cares at this point? Because we're like so off the reservation. But on the other hand, this was kind of an interesting thing because it was going to be the three of us like always. Then Eric dropped out and then Mike dropped out. So it was going to be me and Luke. And this weird thing happened where like text just got like lost in like whatever. And I'm sitting here waiting to hear from them, and they're waiting to hear from me. And I get like 30 texts later on in the day. But it turns out if I had gone on, it would have been just me and Luke. I would have been drunk, and then Luke would have left about 15 minutes in. I would have been by myself because I was ready. I was ready to just go and loaded for Dream a Little Dream because who gives a shit? I haven't drank on this podcast in like 2 years, but like fuck it. It was going to be me by myself, like rambling into the microphone. So it really worked out nicely that we're doing it here on a Saturday.
Nice little Saturday. Yeah. That would have been funny. I would like to have just seen that later on if that did happen. Oh, Chris's water broke. Gotta go. There's Travis, like Garth in Wayne's World all by himself.
Just like reaching, just trying to like talk about Robards and Feldman and Haim, and Stanton and Laurie, everybody, the whole team. Salinger.
Luke loves Harry Dean Stanton. He's like one of his favorites, one of his personal faves, and. But he did respond with a comment, which I guess we could share later when we do Dream a Little Dream. I don't understand it. Some people don't get it. Nobody understands it. But I do understand that we love movies here at Cinema 9. And make sure you 5-star review us. Give us a sub on the YouTube channel. We got plenty of movies that we've covered over 146 episodes. And so whatever it is, we've probably done it. Although, when you think about it, Travis, if you do 146 episodes with the movie, the focus of each one, that still leaves, what? Like 4 million other movies?
There are many movies, but I've noticed, because typically we'll record an episode and I'll listen to it once just to like cringe my way through my own comments and be like, oh, quit interrupting people. But when I listen to like the last few episodes, I swear to God, almost every movie we reference, we don't even mention it. We reference like 5 or 6 movies that we've already done on previous episodes. We don't even, you can check out that episode. We don't even mention it. There's just so many movies that we've done at this point that when we reference one, it's pretty likely it's getting to be, certainly if it's like, of note, it seems like we've done it.
How many movies do you think come out in a given year? Like, is it even possible to quantify? I mean, I don't know, 10,000? Is that too much?
Well,
12 months in a year, 4 weeks, right? I don't know. Maybe it's like 8,000.
Are we including international films? Are we just looking at the big studios? Because the big studios typically do about 10 to 15 a year. Then you have, of course, all the independent stuff and like the many horror features that get churned out for like $5 a pop, apparently, to go up on Vudu or Pluto or whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't say 8,000 a year, but I wouldn't even think 1,000 a year, but I would think a few hundred a year probably.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, if it's a given week and you get, I don't know, 4 premieres here in America on a given week without thinking about the international market or the independent market or the streaming market. I mean, it's just all over the place now. We live in a world where things have changed, but we're trying to make the best of it here. And since it's the Cinema 9 podcast where we try to make the best of things here, it's time for our Movie Tidbit Minute, presented by whoever you want it to be presented by. We don't limit you with specific sponsors. We'd like to keep it open to all sponsors. Right, Travis?
This is true. And also no one's sponsoring us. So
oh, well, okay. I'm just going to pretend that someone sponsored us. All right. Travis, do you have a movie tidbit minute reveal for this week?
I do. I'd like to send love out. It's not much, but I think we should all. I mean, well, it's much to him. Everybody loves Keanu Reeves, as they rightly should. I mean, regardless of his acting prowess, he's clearly a nice guy and a good guy, and he's quickly on his way to becoming like going from America's dad maybe to America's granddad. If he keeps getting older. But my point being that he's pretty beloved, but apparently he's had a really bad few months because there is an individual who has started stalking him, and this individual thinks that he's mentally unwell, and he thinks that Keanu Reeves is his father, and he's like showing up in Keanu Reeves' yard and all over the place. He's been apparently it's like a daily thing for like 3 or 4 months now, and the guy doesn't have he's a transient, doesn't have like a set home, so the cops are having a hard time like doing something about it because he just kind of shows up. So, but he's also not really been a danger. It's just been, spooky. So let's all, shout out to this poor, the individual who needs help. May he get the help that he needs, and best of luck to Keanu Reeves, because he seems like a sweet guy who should be, contentedly left alone.
He does. He's always been a fine gentleman who will show up in any movie. Keanu Reeves could show up in any film. He'll surprise you. He was in Dracula. There was another movie he showed up in recently. I was like, oh my God, Keanu Reeves is there. Oh, it was the bulimic eating disorder film. I was like, oh wow, he's the doctor. So he could be in anything, and then he kicks ass. So
Always Be My Maybe. That great just shows up out of nowhere in that one. It's a lot of fun. He does that.
See?
That's what he does, and he's always kind to his fans and stuff. So it just seems like of all the celebrities to be left alone, let's leave Keanu alone. But again, the guy's unwell. So what are you going to do? But I hope things work out for everybody involved.
Sounds like a strange thing to say. If this thing goes sideways, we look back at this video like, man, maybe we should have done more. But what can we really do? We're just two bozos on a couch on a Saturday afternoon talking movies. We don't have a lot of power in this country, Travis. I don't know if you're aware of that. We're on the outside of the power structure.
Yeah. What do you want us to do? Are we vigilantes? We're going to go guard Keanu Reeves's house?
Yes.
I don't know what action you're calling for.
We got a movie. We got a script here. I think we got a script.
Saving Keanu Reeves.
Yes. I'm going to go with more of the business side. There was the announcement this week that Paramount Plus and Showtime have merged. So now, to me, this is a sign of more to come. There's going to be more mergers with streaming services because there's just too many damn streaming services anyways. And what will end up happening is probably what happened before. It's going to be cable bundles, but it won't be cable. It'll just be like online streaming bundles is what it'll be. And it's already in a way, I guess if you have Hulu, there's also some other options that include other streaming services. You have Hulu, right?
I do.
Are there other streaming services included with the Hulu, or is that extra?
No. Well, I bundle my Hulu with Spotify actually. I get those both for like $10 a month or something, which
that is
nice.
An option.
Right. But I don't need ESPN. And I pay separately for Disney Plus because I just didn't happen to sign up at the right time to get that bundle. So,
hey, if you need that ESPN password, I'll hook you up, dude. Anytime.
I'm good. I'm really, really good. Thanks, though.
Anytime. By the way, the article that I pulled this from, I just have to mention. On the show, we're fascinated by names. Bill Goody Coons and
we got
others. This guy's name is Thaddeus Tuffensammer. Thaddeus Tuffensammer.
Oh boy, that's a fun name, Tuffensammer.
Yeah, it's this can't be real because he works at dailystartreknews.com.
No, it's so polysyllabic.
I know. It is too much.
What about the screenshot I sent you of the director of that episode of Wings? Did you like that?
Oh yeah, I did see that. What was the name though? I forgot.
The name was Peter Boners with a Z.
Yes. So he's a real guy.
I can only assume that that's not a real thing. That somebody stepped. I mean, really, your name is Peter Boners? I struggled
Z makes
to
it classy.
It seems like that was an Alan Smithy kind of thing, but I don't know.
That was true. Wings. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk wings. Let's talk wings for the next hour. What do you say? You
Love
settle
wings. Yeah. No, I
love wings.
Tony Shalhoub got to start. Yeah, I'm watching Wings. I love Wings.
So as far as the Paramount thingy, I mean, if you're a Showtime fan, I actually like Showtime when I do watch it. I haven't watched it in a long time, but there's some shows on there that show with Jeff Daniels last year I watched about.
It's pulled. That's the downside to your story is that Showtime has responded to all this by doing like HBO Max did and start pulling like not just like canceling shows but pulling them from their streamers. So they just released 2 shows in the past year: the American Gigolo show and based on American Gigolo, and then a show based on Let the Right One In. Both just vanished. 3 months after they're out, they pulled them. They're just off the streamer. Rust. Or American Rust was pulled. It's gone. It's just like where is it? How does this work accessed now? I hate this shit.
Oh, well, that is disappointing. I mean, they still got Showtime has Billions. I think people love that. Did you ever watch Billions?
I tuned out. I couldn't. I mean, the same. Remember, we've talked how I haven't been able to get into Succession. I have a hard time like having much sympathy for a bunch of rich characters. I could give a flying fuck.
That's right. And you know what? I commend you for having that, because I feel similar to you, but I don't know. Some reason I fire it up and I don't know why. I mean, I watched Billions for the first 4 seasons. I haven't really caught up. There might be more. In fact, I'm pretty confident there are more than 4 seasons now.
Yeah, I couldn't get through the first season. I'm just like, okay, a rich asshole or a rich asshole. Which one do I prefer here between these 2 protagonists?
Who's your favorite rich asshole? Wow, look how rich they are. Wow.
Oh, and how asshole.
Showtime had Yellow Jackets, I think, which was a hit for them. So
I like that first season. I'll probably watch the second season.
Yeah, and then of course they have Dexter, which will always be a staple for a lot of people, which I think is a little overrated, but it's still a good show.
I like it.
Not like upset about it. So, all right, there you go. That's what's going on in the world of the movie / entertainment / streaming / whatever you want to call 2023 entertainment. He's Travis. I'm Michael. There's no Eric today. Eric, wherever you are right now, hope you're enjoying your day. Really enjoy this weekend, Eric. Cherish the time you have. Exactly. Let Madonna be your guide this weekend.
Yeah.
Let's dive into what we have called Quarantine Viewing Picks, where we provide you with stuff we watched and we would either recommend or not recommend or just mention we watched it. It's really up to the individual. Travis, what would you like to talk about this week?
We have called it that. I've watched a lot this week.
Oh,
it's been some extra time these extra couple of days, but so I wedged some stuff in there. I grew up on. I don't know if this is racist or not. I'm going to say a word that I don't know if it's racist or not, but I stopped saying it. But I don't think it really is. But when I was growing up, me and my brother used to watch something that we called Japanimation, with like kind of a portmanteau of Japan and animation. But people kind of stopped saying that. But I grew up watching that. Now we call it anime, I guess. I hope that's not racist. I apologize if it is. I honestly don't know. Maybe I should. If I'm guessing, if I don't know, maybe I shouldn't venture down that road. But at any rate,
I have not heard that being a issue at all. But again, I'm not Japanese, so I don't know.
I have no idea, to be honest. So I should probably. Yeah, we can edit that one out from the live feed, right? At any rate, me and my brother did not get along that great growing up. My older brother, we found a common ground on some popular culture, and one of those things was anime. So I revisited Appleseed from 1988. I've been kind of digging back into anime of late, and I never got into like the TV shows. I can't do like 30 seasons of watching people almost fight. I just can't do it. But I do still like the movies, and Appleseed held up really well. As far as newer, another old one I'd actually never seen Tremors 2 before, Aftershocks. Put that under my belt. That was Fred Ward and his mullet. Was fun.
I wouldn't do that again. I mean, I wouldn't do the follow-up. I actually enjoyed Tremors when I was a kid, but I never saw the second one.
I never saw the second one either. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. I mean, it was what you wanted to be. It's a late night watch. It wasn't hey, let's sit down and, on a Sunday afternoon and get really serious and watch Dream a Little Dream. I watched some stuff that is newer, such as You People, the new film with Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. This has got like a 5.2 or 5.6 or something on IMDb. We
fired it up.
Did you watch it?
Me and Leanne watched it the other night.
What'd you think?
There were some people who talked about it on some podcasts I listened to prior, without spoilers, just saying that it was it seemed too intentionally woke, I guess, it was like trying to I guess you can't even tell a story for some people anymore about the challenges of culture clashes without it being perceived as woke, which I think is a little over the top. That it's a time-honored story, is whether it's class warfare, between economic status, or it is cultures that come together, especially when people love each other and they want to get married and they've got family pressures. That stuff is real. So that's always a story that needs to be told. And I thought it was all right. I thought there were some funny moments, and there was, you got like you said, a killer cast, and Jonah Hill was rock solid. Jonah Hill kind of like kept the glue. Yeah. Him and his partner, I don't know her name. I don't know who that was, but she was good too.
Yeah, I'm not sure of her name off the top of my head. I will say, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I am grateful when people use the word woke in a pejorative way, because I'm like, oh, now I know what kind of asshole I'm dealing with. I will say that the movie, like a lot of comedies, has a strong first act. I laughed hard, and then it kind of, starts to dwindle out as it goes on. Yet another movie that, chop 20 minutes off the thing, you've got a better movie.
Laura London, by the way, is Amira. That's who played Amira. Lauren London.
I thought she did a good job. I thought the movie was funny. I'm surprised at the really low IMDB rating. I mean, it's not the most original thing, but it made me laugh, and I felt for the characters, that's more than you can say about a lot of movies.
It was a combo too. I didn't know that it was Kenya Barris and Jonah Hill collaborated on this. They were the writers, and Kenya Barris directed it.
And he popped in there for a second too.
Yeah, and Eddie Murphy. It's good to see Eddie Murphy on screen. Eddie Murphy. This was a unique role for him, I thought.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah,
and he was great in it. I mean, he was funny. He was really funny in this, playing like a hard-edged asshole, like not being like funny, and like he wasn't like being like intentionally funny. He was a lot more of like the straight guy, but he was so fucking tough.
Yes, it's the first scene he showed up in. He's wearing a Fred Hampton was murdered.
Love it.
Shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, well, we're setting the tone right off the bat here.
He's got the kufi or the topi from Farrakhan.
That's good stuff, because again, ththese are spoilers. I assume you hope
spoilers though. I mean, these are pretty light spoilers.
Oh, it's an obvious clash. You have an Islamic culture and a Jewish culture. I mean, they're coming together to get married, and Louis Farrakhan. Yeah, Louis Farrakhan is a guy who said some anti-Semitic things. So I actually thought that scene in particular was a good setup. What do people do? How do they react? Because everybody wants to respect one another, but then there's like a line for everybody to a certain point, and despite everyone's best intentions, it can get complicated. And I think the movie did a good job of setting that stuff up and trying to see how people dealt with it.
I agree. It's certainly worth checking out. If you got Netflix, I mean, throw it on for an evening. It's, you might not watch it over and over again, but I definitely think it's better than its IMDb rating, but most stuff is anyway.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing I just want to say real quick is there was something else I watched over the weekend, and then I'll talk about it in my time, but there's a fine line here. My expression being that what people perceive as like overly aggressive, poor writing to try to make a point about cultural or racial aspects where it seems so obvious that it's forced. Forced writing is forced writing no matter what it is, and that will always be bad. But I think people are making that mistake. They're assuming that other movies that maybe things looked a little bit more forced, and you thought like, oh wow, they're trying to shove an agenda down my neck. I don't want to watch this. Whoever you are, even if you're a rational human being, I think there's a fine line between that, and I really don't think that you people is doing that. So if you've heard stuff, check it out for yourself first, which is something I think that most people should do regardless. We talk about critical reviews and we share ratings, but we always check movies out for ourselves.
Yeah. And Jonah Hill, from what I understand, like he started the story, he pitched the idea to Kenya Barris because he was dating a black woman and was having some experiences and thought it'd make, good comedy fodder. But, people
usually does. That's original experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if something deals with race or gender or religion in like a positive way and like trying to heal and like draw attention, etc., or, any of that kind of stuff, you're going to find all kinds of fuck faces coming out of the woodwork. Clicking that one button on the IMDb. I watched other movies as well. I don't know how many times I've tried to watch the Adam Sandler movie, or I have successfully watched the Adam Sandler movie, Just Go With It, which sucks. And as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, when did they go to Africa? Well, that's blended. I finally realized that I've been meaning to rewatch Blended. So I rewatched Blended.
Whoops.
And they went to F.
I've never seen either of those.
I revisited Wakanda Forever, which I loved. And I look forward to our eventual someday MCU special episode of this show someday. Long promise.
I watched it this week, the other day, so I can tell you that we will do that. We're about ready. I just want to double check a few things, but I think we probably could do this theoretically next week. Believe it or not, I'm telling you this live on the show. Yeah, I hope so too.
I'll hold you to it.
Phase, like you said, do it. The next phase is kicking in, right?
Yeah, so, the next phase starts. Phase 5 starts in 2 weeks from yesterday. So
Quantum Mania.
We're getting Quantum Mania-icious. So we should probably drop that phase 4 retrospective before that starts. So, but yeah, so we'll save.
That makes a lot of sense.
We'll talk more in depth about Wakanda Forever in a future episode. I watched some other stuff that had been Academy Award nominated, like the documentary Fire of Love, which is about 2 volcanologists who they were like the Steve Irwins of volcanoes. I mean, these people, the footage that they recorded of themselves, and they were a couple, and they died in an explosion, in a volcanic explosion. But this movie is so beautifully shot and like pieced together. It's their own footage, but it's all very like, I don't know. Miranda July does the narration, and she does a beautiful job. It's almost like Terrence Malick-esque. It's like, I don't know. I really, really, really love this movie. It was really beautiful in terms of how it looked and the story about these 2 weirdos that found each other and shared this really uncommon, very risky profession. So that was good. I checked out All Quiet on the Western Front finally.
Oh.
And we talked, Mike. It is in German. For anyone watching it, you just have to. If you're watching on Netflix, you're in the English language. You got to pause it and go to like the languages and select it to be in German, and then you get the English. We just press play. It's dubbed over in English, which they must have done a very good job for you not to have noticed that. But
they did, dude. I'm telling you.
Yeah, they must have.
Blew my mind.
But yeah, I mean, it's great. It is great. I really, really liked it. It's tough, but I mean, it was really good, and that music, that score is awesome.
Yeah,
great.
Isn't it? It's badass. We'll probably never fire it up again anytime soon, but it's really good.
It's not something I'm going to revisit a bunch, but it's something.
Does it have high school? It's something you could show to class someday? Is it possible?
I think it's a little gorier that I'd want to show in class, to be honest. War is one thing, but there's some scenes in here that just like I might recommend it to them, but I'm not going to necessarily be like, hey, let's sit down and watch this.
Okay.
I watched Till. If I look a little red rimmed around the eyes, I checked out Till this morning and pretty much wept my way through it. I had to take frequent breaks to recover from this emotional story. Man, the Academy really fucked up. The Academy fucked up this year. It's not just not nominating Danielle Deadwyler for Best Actress for this movie. And She Said, it's not just that they're important movies, it's that they're really, really well-made movies. And if a movie's amongst the best made movies of the year and it deals with a really important issue and you're nominating 10 movies for Best Fucking Picture, maybe toss one of these in there, at least one of them. It's disappointing that it didn't get any kind of serious love from the Academy or really much else. I mean, it's I know the story of Emmett Till really well, and I imagine most people do, and kind of were thinking, well, I already know this story. Do I need to watch it because it's going to make me sad? And yeah, you should. It's going to make you sad, and you do know the story. It's one of the most historically accurate historical films I think I've ever seen. I mean, extremely, the attention to detail in their lives and what happened, like it's all extremely rigidly true to life as best we know. And just really, really great. I mean, it's powerful. It's tough. Again, like a really hard watch, but I think everyone should.
Well, it's a brutal story. Yeah, that makes sense that they would, especially if they're being true to the game. I respect that. The only thing I'll throw out here, first off, I heard that it was a problem that the Woman King was, that Viola Davis was left out of the mix too.
Yeah, so there's been. I don't think it's fair to blame Andrea Riseborough, who was nominated for Best Picture or for Best Actress. There's a lot of I don't know why they're
the
blaming
story
her
all about
particularly.
that. Yeah,
I've seen. I mean, I like the Woman King, and I'm really happy it was well received because I've been wanting a movie about Dahomey for a long time, and hopefully we'll get more similar stories about like medieval or not medieval, but like that era of Africa and that kind of stuff, which is great. I didn't. I mean, personally, as much as I liked Woman King, I didn't necessarily find it something I would shower with awards myself. But Till, to me, was very obviously something that has been looked over, and it shouldn't have been. Maybe people assumed that other people would vote for it or something. I don't know, but it's really good.
Wow.
Really.
Yeah, there's one other thing that pops in my mind too. Is there was another movie that came out in the last 2 to 3 years? Was it Harriet? You know, the movie that was
so fucking terrible? The Harriet Tubman movie. I've been wanting a movie about her forever too, and they just butchered the shit out of that story.
It was terrible.
They created characters that didn't exist, and they created a villain that didn't exist. They created love stories that didn't exist. They made like the part where she actually like fought in the Civil War. They made that a fucking coda on the film, just in like a text at the end. Like, I mean,
no,
it sucked. I'm sorry, but I was disappointed with Harriet.
So that was my only thought. This is total abstract. This could be arbitrary as hell, but maybe that movie not being good, people made assumptions that like these stories told about really important black figures from our recent or just American history in general. It seems like I know people are dumb. They'll start just lumping stuff in together. They will. And I'm not saying it's right at all. I just think that sometimes this stuff happens. And I've not seen Till, but your recommendation is it holds a lot of weight with me, especially when you talk about historical accuracy. So I'm disappointed to hear that. I'm going to watch it as soon as I can just to double check, and then I'll let you know and tell you how correct you were.
And watching the movie, I'm reminded, as I'm watching it, that it's 68 years ago or whatever, but we have still not come that far. Excuse me, I had a cough. We've still not come that far. There's things happening in the movie. You look at it, I'm like, yep, that's how people respond today when similar events happen. Don't want to give any spoilers, but some of the way that she's like treated, some of like the fan mail, quote unquote, that she gets and that kind of stuff. It's like, oh, that's practically like a tweet that someone would get today if they had lost a child publicly and that kind of stuff. It's a tough watch, but it's an important watch. And I'm glad I didn't watch it in theaters. I really am glad that I could watch it at home because I like stopped and did laundry and stuff. I had to, man. I just fucking had to. But the best movie I watched of this past week is one that I had seen before. I revisited Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I liked it. I loved it even more the second time. I don't think necessarily that the Daniels are geniuses, but this movie, the sum total of its parts, is a genius movie, like literal genius movie that I think has I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and I really hope it wins Best Picture.
It's very obvious to me that it's going to have incredible rewatchability because there's so much to take in.
That's it right there. Like I like going in with like already emotionally invested in the characters because I loved it the first time. Like, oh, this is great. I saw it in theaters and the hype was there, but like and people were even then were saying this is the best movie ever. And I'm like, well, certainly it's not going to be, but I'll go see it in theaters because of this hype. And I loved it. And then watching it the second time the other day, I'm like, man, I'm gonna watch this again soon because it's just you can get so much more out of it, and you're getting hit with everything everywhere all at once. So there's a lot to take in, but man. Loved it. I love it so much.
Spoiler alert.
No. Are you going to get into it? Okay. Pause.
No, I'm just going to say one thing. I'm just saying one thing. Raccacoonie is so funny. It's one of the funniest things I've ever. It's so funny. That's when I was going nuts when I watched it the first time. Yeah. That whole sequence is so funny. I've never even seen Ratatouille, but it's enough to get it and to laugh my ass off. It was such a funny bit, and that's just a tiny part of an overall film that is a huge heart and an emotive expression about the lived experience. I'm with you all the way. It's an incredible film, and I can't wait to watch it again. And
that gets into the brilliant, or one of the many brilliant things about it, is that the most absurd and hilarious and stupid moments are also fraught with all of this sensitivity and emotion and like depth. And so like you're laughing at this something that comes up, you're like, that's so fucking stupid and ridiculous. And then the movie keeps going and they return to it, and you're like, oh my God, I've got fucking goosebumps about Raccoonie. So it's a brilliant movie. And if you've not seen it, the hyperbole is high on this one, and I'm adding to it, but man, it really is that good.
Yeah, it really is that good. I concur. So two people, one named Travis and one named Mike, can't be wrong, can they?
No, your turn.
No. Okay, my turn. Sim and I Pod here. I watched The Fabelmans. I knocked that one out.
What'd you think?
And boy, I really wanted to turn it off after about 40 minutes. But I stuck through it, and then I was like, damn, this is a pretty damn good movie. He got me. Spielberg got me. I wasn't sure he's going to get me there. It was a strange dynamic, but it also was really, really set in the time and place. So whether you want to be in that time and place or not, Steven Spielberg clearly, even at his age, it doesn't even matter. This is one of his better films. I actually am going to say that. I really think it's still, in terms of what he does and how much supposed detail, because you do a lot of reading about it. I did afterwards. I wanted to know, and man, like the things he recalled from his own life to make specific scenes here, painful experiences for him. Really well done, man. I'm not like a Spielberg honk. I respect the hell out of him. And then when you look at his career, you're like, okay, well, there might be some popcorn involved, but the guy loved movies, and he also wasn't afraid to. I mean, he's made some of the most brutal sequences in mainstream Hollywood films too. So he's not like some, I don't know if some people see him as like this popcorn vanilla bubblegum filmmaker, because he's gone really raw on some hardcore subjects in his life. So
I think people know, they've seen Schindler's List and The Color of Purple and stuff. I mean, he's certainly a serious guy.
But sometimes I think okay, maybe that's fair. Maybe people don't see him that way. He's a great filmmaker, and if this was his ode to his own life and his family, then good for him. It's an enjoyable film. It really crept up on me, but I liked it a lot in the end, even though I wanted to turn it off after 40 minutes.
Which says something. I'll leave it at that. That says something.
It really does. It does. I watched Tar.
Yeah. Okay. Let's hear it.
Man, this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, I can't believe what I found out afterwards. I was blown away after the fact to find out what I found out. I don't want to tell people. Well, spoiler, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. She's not a real human being. I was like, where's the Google? I'm Googling Lydia Tarr everywhere. Oh. They had so thoroughly convinced me, Trey. I was thoroughly convinced.
Michael, I talked about this on this show with you, how she's a fictional character based on a very
I'm so glad I missed that. I spoke about
it with you.
I'm so glad it went right through my live on the air.
I know what you're doing. This is what you're doing right here. This is what you're doing. Oh yeah. That's what you're doing. Probably.
That's a good impression of me, actually. It's not bad.
For those listening, not watching, I was just looking at my phone. She's based on a real person, but not a real person.
She is based on a real person.
I'm not going to repeat myself. God damn it. Yes, I did a whole thing about.
I got that it was totally fictional. That's what I read. I did a lot of digging on this afterwards for like an hour.
There's a woman composer who is a lesbian woman who is the only, until recently, was the only top-notch woman composer. I'm repeating shit. Sorry for those that actually listen to the show. Who is?
Okay, I believe you. I'm just.
She has literally like the same life of Lydia Tarr, other than the controversies. So it's very much probably based on this individual. I forget her name. Something.
I mean, they set it up so well in the beginning, but you got the real time. It's like, oh wow, she's on NPR. This is very real. Todd Field, what an incredible effort here, man. I mean, everyone's given Cate Blanchett her due, which she deserves, but this is a really, really in-depth film that takes you in all sorts of places about today's world that we live in right here, right now, and it's challenging us. You, the viewer, and everybody in the film watching it or acting it out. Do we accept this? Is this okay? Is this not okay? I love this film so much. I was engrossed in it, even if it did kind of meander for a while towards the end. I love the questions that it asked and that it presented things to us as an audience about, hey, are we just where's the nuance? Where's the discussion? We're just making blanket final choices no matter what. There's no more detailed breakdowns of events that happen to people. It just looks like a public thing, and things get edited in certain ways. I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy. And Todd Field gets all the credit for me. I think he should get Best Director. I really do. I would have given him Best Director.
I agree. If Daniels get it or if Martin McDonagh get it, I'll be happy. But honestly, I think Todd Field deserves it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I do remember you saying that, actually. I do.
Yeah. Okay. You were listening to me. I feel validated.
Yes, I caught something you said once. I also listened to you, believe it or not. I do listen because I wanted to watch The Triangle of Sadness after you said it was such a great send-up on capitalism. So I fired that up immediately.
And there's an island, which you talked about. On your, is it
another boat, another island. Yep. Shit, that's 3 movies now. Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, it's been a movie of rich people on islands and donkeys. There's been a lot of donkeys, and this in Triangle of Sadness, there's the overlap, donkey and an island.
Oh yeah, tough donkey scene in Triangle of Sadness.
I had to fast forward it. I had to skip it. I couldn't get through it.
You did?
Yes, of course you did. There was like 15 minutes left of the movie, and I was ready. No spoilers.
Even though you understood the connotation of the situation, that they were desperate people.
Couldn't handle it. Couldn't fucking handle it. It's the noises. I love donkeys.
I didn't know you love donkeys. Well, okay. I know you love animals, period, but I should have assumed that.
Yeah.
But Triangle of Sadness, it's a good movie. Kind of lost me though after a while. Maybe I got too excited about the things you said about it, and I had raised my expectations even more. But they kind of lost me. No, but the way it's done is. All right, I guess I got lost.
No spoilers, but there is a scene on the boat when everything kind of goes to shit, so to speak.
Yeah,
and that scene, that all of that in particular. I mean, I was just like clapping and cheering and loving it. Just yes, suffer.
Yes, I did dig that. I like the build up on all that. Yeah, that was cool. But once they're on the island, I guess I kind of was like, I would have been mine if the movie had ended and been shorter. I really wouldn't. Like if it just. But there are great aspects of community, culture, and hierarchies on the island, and that's. I admit that. I guess I kind of lost myself. Maybe it was such a climax after that I
I agree. The third act should have been the strongest, and it wasn't. I agree.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I talked about this on one of our movie tidbit minutes. So yeah, there is actual real information in those segments, believe it or not. And I followed through on mine by watching Jesse Eisenberg's When You Finish Saving the World. And it is fantastic. I'm gushing about movies today, but what an achievement for Jesse Eisenberg. Julianne Moore and Wolf, Mr. Finn Wolfhard. Finnhard?
Finnhard. Finn Hardwolf.
Oh, shit. I'm sorry, Finn. I totally biffed on that, Finn. That's my apologies to you.
It's his fault for having that name.
Finn.
Yeah.
Finn Wolfhard? I mean, that's not a real name.
No. Someone made that up in an agent's office.
Thank you. All right. We agree on that for sure. But man, I would like people to watch When You Finish Saving the World. It's a fantastic film. Again, dealing with what's going on with the generations today in a not as a intense way as Todd Field's Tar is, but a lot of jokes, a lot more brevity, but some very serious introspective moments for characters. Julianne Moore is still crushing it. She's fantastic in this film. She plays, I said this on the show about a month or so ago, that Dustin Hoffman in the Meyerowitz stories from Noah Baumbach, I thought that was like the quintessential boomer character of recent time. But I think Julianne Moore has topped that with an incredible boomery performance with Finn Wolfhard as her son, who's a streamer. It's just fascinating. I really recommend it. Watch this movie. Let me know what you think. It's about social issues. It's about how we react in public versus how we are as a family at home. It's just really intriguing. And I want to give Mr. Eisenberg full kudos for making a really good film.
All right. When did it come out? This year?
Simple film.
Or 2022?
Yeah, it just came out like a couple weeks ago. Because when I did it on Movie Tidbit Minute, I think right before the new year or right around there, I said it was about to come out. So
All right.
I don't know if it went. Actually, I don't. I watched it. I'll just say I watched it. I don't know how or where I consumed it. Just that I watched it. So I don't know where it is, but it's somewhere in the world.
That's informative.
I know that's vague. Yeah, it wasn't on a streaming service that I looked up. I'll just say that. So it's somewhere out there, though. It is
cryptic, very cryptic.
I know it is. That's the best I can do for you. We're on a show here. We're doing the Cinema Night podcast. Cryptic is our specialty. Isn't that our slogan?
It's about cinema.
Okay, I watched the Pamela Anderson documentary, and I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot from her perspective. Some people might be like, who cares? I was intrigued by it. I thought she was very honest about her own relationships and the pain that she went through by living as a public figure who really just seemed like she wanted to seek love. She really wanted to have a great love in her life, and she wasn't able to do that. Unfortunately, she created children with somebody who she really loved, but was also a massive piece of shit. So that's Tommy Lee. But intriguing. I was intrigued by it. Another documentary I watched was Senior, and I had never heard of this. Have you heard of this?
I've not watched it, but I've heard of it, yeah.
I would definitely recommend it. The curious, unusual, which you should expect. I mean, you've got Robert Downey Jr. and his father making a documentary together as his father is, he's
dying.
He's on his last legs. Well, yeah. I mean, he's dead now, so yeah. I guess that's not really a spoiler. But the documentary came out last year, and they're both trying to make a documentary from their perspectives because Robert Downey Sr. is such a control freak. It's really an interesting documentary. It's unusual. And I've often wondered if Robert Downey Jr. acts a lot. I know he acts. He's a good actor, but like, who is he versus to me, he's been one of the more confusing. Where is the person and the actor? Because a lot of the way he seems to be is so quick-witted and sharp and fast. And he's played a lot of different characters over 30 plus years of cinema.
Sure.
But seeing this documentary gave me a new side of him, I guess, is what I mean to say.
I think there are some actors that are like chameleons, and then there's some actors that kind of go out there and how would I handle this? If I was this guy, how would I do this? And if I was this person in this situation, how would I do this? And they just kind of play themselves over and over again, which is fine too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's entertaining. It's entertaining.
Yeah, when he tries to go big and like disappear in a character, usually it's not super convincing. Like in Dreams, for instance, with the red hair.
Yeah, he got shit on for Doolittle. I didn't see that one, but I'll see it for myself to find. Was Doolittle good?
No. Remember, when we first started the podcast, I got really drunk and I watched Doolittle and Cats back to back, and that was rough.
I do remember that. I don't remember the specific words you said, but I definitely, especially Cats, it was such a memorable nightmare, but so was Doolittle. So, anyways, check out Senior. It's on Netflix. It's a great documentary. It's about a father and a son, but it's also about movie making and a guy that I'm a moron. I should be a huge Robert Downey Sr. fan. Like, his movies seem like movies that I should enjoy. They're off the wall and they're goofball fest. They're not mainstream, but the messages he sent throughout his films, I mean, with Putney Swope, is such a send up on the time and place. It's still relevant today, but I haven't watched a lot of his other movies, and I'm going to do that. That'll be my next mission this year, is to knock out as many Robert Downey Sr. movies as I can, because I think him and I were simpatico in a lot of things. So there you go. That's some stuff I watch. It's great to watch movies. I love movies. They're fun. Oh, by the way, yeah. I wrote this down just for you. Fucking Simon shows up in The Fabelmans. I paused it and I typed it in exclamation points. Simon! There he is from Henry Fool. I was so excited.
Oh, James Urbaniak. Yeah, James Urbaniak's in there. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah. I didn't even necessarily recognize him at first. I recognized his voice because he plays the.
Yeah, he's getting older.
Senior. Yeah, he's starting to get a little older.
We're getting older. We're all getting older.
We're all getting older if we're lucky. But yeah, I didn't recognize him on the screen. But as soon as he started talking, I'm like, James Urbaniak. There he is. Love him.
That voice has not changed. Yeah, it was good to see Simon from Henry Fool, our old pal from the dump days. All right, there it is. cinema9pod@gmail.com. Let's dive into our main focus. Is now to dive in to a movie that Travis Roy has selected from 1989. It's called Dream a Little Dream of Me. Eric sent us a review, by the way. We'll save that for the end, I guess.
Yeah, let's save it for
the end. Or do you want it?
No, let's
save it for the end.
Although I think it's safe to say if you're a regular listener and you know Eric and his exacting, demanding criteria for film, you probably already know how he feels about this movie. He doesn't have a lot of wiggle room for nostalgia or like, hey, they tried. He has
They
high
tried.
expectations, and if a filmmaker doesn't live up to them, he will let you know. So, spoiler alert on his feelings there.
That's fair. It was directed by someone who has the last name of Rocco? Rowe? What's that guy's name? Mark Rocco?
Marcus Rocco? Or is it Mark Rocco?
Yeah. Mark Rocco, the one and only.
I know he was adopted by Alex Rocco, the actor who played Corey Feldman's father in this movie.
Ooh, he did.
No, what did you say? Like, no milk, no cookies, nothing. No, that Alex Rocco.
Yeah, I swear to God, man. By the way, Alex Rocco played Mo Green in The Godfather, the famous scene. So you'll know if you're hearing this or seeing this, you're like, oh, who's Alex Rocco? You know who Alex Rocco is. He was a very famous looking dude with, looks like he had silver hair from the time that he was, I don't know, 10 years old.
Yeah,
dude, I looked this up. Yeah, he's got the Steve Martin hair. He was in the Winter Hill Gang, though, for real.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, the Winter Hill Gang is Black Mass. Whitey Bulger. He was really in the Winter Hill Gang from Massachusetts and Boston. I was like, oh my God. And somehow he got out of that life. He was actually accused of murder once, and he was not officially tried. But yeah, Alex Rocco seemed to have like a gray area of not just the Godfather mafia life, but he might have been mixed up when he was younger. So
he's so like squishy and dad-like in this movie. It's hard to
I know.
That's all
I can think of him as. Yeah, he's an old man. He's an older man, but he's probably like 40 in this movie at most, actually.
Yeah, he's probably younger than us for all we fucking know.
Yes, I'm telling you, he probably was.
Yeah.
Anyways, this movie's not about Alex Rocco. Let's go back in time. Travis, we always like to talk about our first viewings. I'm sure you can recall your first viewing of Dream a Little Dream.
I got a lot to say about this, actually. Because the reason I picked this movie is because last week we did The Running Man, which when we talked about that movie, I talked about how I remembered it as one of the first films I remember seeing, more or less, especially like a film made for adults, not like a kids movie, as a kid. And this movie is not quite at that level, but because it was 89, so it was a little bit older, but so I'd seen more at that point. But still, by that point, we got this recorded for us. Someone dubbed it as soon as it came out on VHS. So we had a copy of this in our homes, and I watched it a lot. I mean, I watched it like a lot for 3 or 4 years of my life. It was on a regular rotation. I had the soundtrack on cassette. I have a very fond memory of being at our dear and departed friend Brandon Harview's home the night before he and I were being taken to Cedar Point in 4th grade, listening to that cassette on my Walkman, like we're passing the headphones back and forth. And I remember I loved the song Into the Mystic by Van Morrison. And I'll never forget that I'm like, hey, I want you to hear the song. I think it's really great. He's like, you like country music. And so I didn't tell anybody that I liked Van Morrison for like 20 years or 15 maybe. But yeah, so I grew up just religiously watching this movie, listening to the soundtrack a lot, and all of that, and then rightfully did not view it for, I don't know, decades. I probably hadn't watched it since sometime in the early 90s until a couple nights ago. I figured, why not throw on something that we'll talk more about it, but I knew it was going to be, kind of like Backdraft. I was like, well, maybe it'll be great and it'll surprise me, or maybe it's total trash. But it came from this period of my life where I didn't love movies because they were good or bad. I loved them because I owned them and watched them a lot, and that was good enough.
Hey, that's all you need sometimes. I saw this movie on VHS around probably early 90s, maybe like 91, somewhere around there after I moved to Heartland. And I remember watching it like 2 or 3 times and thinking it was really bizarre. And I'm like, what is this? I didn't really understand it at all, but we didn't really have a copy beyond that. I might have even caught it on HBO a few times. And that's where I got, again, HBO was a big part of my movie development in the early to mid 90s. So, but I just remember being like, I don't understand what's happening here. And I don't even really remember any memorable lines. The thing I remember the most was like, who's that girl? Well, she's really pretty. I do remember Meredith Salinger, and I was like, wow, it's a beautiful woman. So.
Yeah, she was actually my first human crush. Now the Heathcliff's friend, the junkyard cat, had a girlfriend cat.
Yep.
Her and Ariel, the Little Mermaid, were amongst like my first crushes. And then Tracy Esker, I don't know if I should name drop her, actual human being, but like, in first grade, like myself, and I had a crush on her. But Meredith Salinger in this movie was like the first like adult woman that I'm like, who is this? Look at her in the leotard. What's happening? What am I experiencing right now? What am I feeling? And I was a sucker for brunettes the rest of my life.
Yeah, some people are a sucker for cornrows and manicured toes. So to each his own. You know what I mean? Wow. Yeah, I just remembered her, and as I got older, I was like, yeah, that's all I really remembered about the movie, other than the two Corys were in it, and Jason Robards, Something Bizarre, and Meredith Salinger. And that's really all I maintained from this movie experience. As far as the IMDb rating, I'm
going to guess low.
You're going to guess low? Okay.
It was pilloried. I mean, when it came out, it was not a raging success, despite the fact that it came out when they were still at their peak, the Corys. But it kind of bombed, at least especially for them. I think it was a very slim age range of people that couldn't necessarily think critically about this movie. So I'm going to say it's 5-4.
It does have, so it's got Jason Robards, Harry Dean Stanton. I mean, these are legitimate.
No, it doesn't just have Harry Dean Stanton. It's got with Harry Dean Stanton and Corey Haim in the credits.
Yeah.
Like, how did Harry Dean Stanton feel about getting with while Corey Haim got the and billing? Like, oof.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because Harry Dean Stanton was in Pretty in Pink. So he had, I mean, in terms of like going into this world of like the teenager movies of the 80s, he had established a presence. So maybe he felt like, whatever, I'll get a paycheck. I mean, Repo Man was a while ago. I don't know, Paris, Texas. Yeah.
So this was definitely like a paycheck. You could kind of get that feeling between him and Robards and Piper Laurie that they're like, oh yeah, we like money.
Yeah, don't forget Victoria Jackson was in this.
Oh yeah,
and
Victoria Jackson.
She plays Corey Feldman's mom, and I couldn't recognize her first because to me her signature look was that big curly hair, the blonde hair that she had. But the first time I see her on screen, she's got her curls in, and I'm like, oh my god, you look so different.
And she starts
and that voice though.
Yeah. Pick it up. I'm
Victoria Jackson. Yeah, that classic voice. I always tell Leanne last night because I'm like, she didn't remember who Victoria Jackson was. I'm like, oh, you'll see her when she comes on camera. You'll totally recognize her.
Jackson.
Oh, sweetie. And
Nora Dunn.
Was Victoria Jackson? This is a quick side note, but was she funny? Like, I feel like she was funny, but like she didn't really get a chance to really show off any like real classic skits or opportunities. And there also could have been, who knows, some misogynistic tones there. But Gilda Radner also was a woman who set the tone of Saturday Night Live in the beginning. So I don't know. It was a random
Gilda Radner was diverse. Victoria Jackson was a one-trick pony. She had like one character that she did over and over again, and everything pretty much that she ever did, more or less. So no, I don't think that she's a victim of anything personally.
Well, there's your answer. See, I just wanted to double check. But yeah, okay. So you said 5-4.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to say in the mid 5s, 5-4.
I think nostalgia could play a role, and I'm going to say this is like a 6, like a dead 6.
Okay,
a dead 6.
Oh,
yeah. And the answer is, well, it looks like you were closer. No, I was closer. Oh, it's a tie. We hit the median. It's 5.7.
All right.
How about that?
5.7. What do you know?
Yay.
We're both right.
Wrong. By the way, though, only 7,000 ratings, so it's not very high.
As many people who watched this when it came out, I don't know how many people have watched it since IMDB was created, let alone that took the time to, rate it.
Oh boy. Okay, so we always go over to Rotten Tomatoes and things get worse. I'm sorry, this might be the lowest ever.
I think
9%.
I think I saw that. Yeah, 9%. That's pretty low.
Jeez, that's really harsh because the audience scores is 67.
Yeah, I think 9% is even lower than the Annihilators or Blood Diner or any other.
The Annihilators. I didn't do the Blood Diner show, but the Annihilators was just like incomplete didn't exist, so we'll just give that incomplete. But
Okay.
I didn't do the Blood Diner show, so maybe that was lower. Yeah.
No, I think this is Well, okay, so 5-7. All right, in the fives, definitely.
But a 67 on the popcorn side, so almost a 70%. That's a massive gap. This is the biggest gap we've ever seen.
It's huge gap.
Wow.
Band. Yeah.
You dropped a gap on me. All right, let's see. Critical reviews of this film back in the day are there's only one page because it's old.
Yeah.
And it's not like a powerfully mainstream film, I guess.
It was pretty mainstream though. I mean, it was definitely
it was okay, maybe mainstream is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, like it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
Electric Boogaloo range of films. It wasn't something that people were taking super seriously. You think Leonard Maltin chimed in here? We got Eames. Who else we got?
No Maltin, but we do have Eames. In 1989, Roger Ebert said, "Dream a Little Dream is an aggressively unwatchable movie."
Aggressively unwatchable. Eames.
Also, was that in our text thread that somebody posted about that Roger Ebert never thought he could hate a movie with Harry Dean Stanton in it until now?
No, we did not talk about that.
Okay, well, then I found that on my own. That's another statement from Ebes. He loves Harry Dean Stanton, but this is the first movie
Harry Dean Stanton is an incredible actor, and he just kind of shows up in this and is like, "Hey, I got a members only jacket on." That's not it.
Yeah, I'm gonna like awkwardly and almost like too intimately kiss your wife in the morning. Very strange.
Always strange. Always strange. Who kisses their friend's wife on the lips as a hello?
And like hugging her, like your arms are around. It was. Yeah. I was sitting next to Leanne. I'm like, is that weird?
And then joking about you should run away with me. Like, this is your friend. Don't let this man in your house.
I know. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't just me. We go to the Washington Post. Richard Harrington. Who knows who that is? He's probably dead now. Yeah. Folks staggering. Yeah, this is from a long time ago. Folks staggering out of Dream a Little Dream may well wonder what the heck they just saw. Oh. Okay. Well, the New York Times, Walter Goodman said, "This is one incoherent movie. I have a hunch that the writers could not figure it out either." Oh, come on. The writers were Daniel J. Franklin, who did the story, and of course, director Mark Rocco and Danny Eisenberg worked on the screenplay.
Yeah, yeah. Three brains. Didn't necessarily sew up all the potholes or the plot holes, excuse me, with their three brains. What were you gonna say?
Maybe they didn't. There's only one red tomato on this page, and it comes from Allison Rose of Flick Direct. And this, by the way, is like last year. This was March of last year that she did this. Yeah. So she's seeing it in our current time and giving it a red tomato by saying, "If Dream a Little Dream's plot sounds like Vice Versa or Freaky Friday, it's because it is, with some slight variations."
In this one, they swap bodies, but one set of the bodies vanishes.
Ah, that's why it's different.
That's why it's different. The old people's bodies just vanish. We don't know where they go.
Yeah, we got to mention, Vice Versa.
Like father, like son.
Like father, like son. Thank you. Dudley Moore. Is that the Dudley Moore one? One's Judge Reinhold, Dudley Moore, Kirk Cameron. These are people that are in these two movies.
They did, and then Freaky with Vince Vaughn, which was terrible, but that came out a couple years ago. And there's been some others. But to me, the cream of the crop has always been Vice Versa. Obviously, that's the winner out of that genre of films. I never really thought
Fred
of this
Savage.
No, Judge Ryan. Oh yeah, Judge Reinhold and Fred Savage. Is that one with the weird skull that they both put their hands on?
That's right.
That one was the good one. I never really thought of this one as that though, even though it is, because it is like a body swapping thing. But Feldman, Bobby doesn't go into Coleman's body, which would have been interesting, but that's not what happens. They are in this weird like liminal brain space with their corporeal bodies somehow dragged up there with them. I don't get that, but it's not quite that, but it is that.
You put echo on their voices, then it makes it dreamlandy. That's what it is. So not every word either, just like every 10th word, like an echo in a delay. Yeah, and I mean, that's a nice house. I mean, that house has a lot of screen time. That house and the yard. We spent a lot of time in that yard and that pathway. Did we all have a pathway? I mean, remember how I used to cut from your house to the front sub to the back sub? I used to always go by Abby the butler's house, cut right through there. That was the place.
Yeah, that's exactly where we would cut through, and that was like a regular. But those people were fine with it. They didn't care. You know, they didn't pull a Coleman on us.
Yeah. Like their dad was a cop too. Never heard a damn thing about it, as far as I know.
What's funny is at the very end of this movie, it shows, you know, Bobby and Laney are walking. You know, they don't want to take the shortcut. They take the walk around, and the camera pulls back. You can actually see like the walk that they are gonna take, like not using the shortcut. And it's like, holy shit, the shortcut saves them like, I don't know, 15 feet, something ridiculous. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, literally, it saves them like 10, 15 feet, like less than a yard.
You're not wrong. That is exactly what's going on there. So, some things I noticed: Corey Haim uses the same character name that he used from License to Drive, except they switched it. Dean was the name of Corey Feldman's character in License to Drive, and now Corey Haim plays Dean in this movie.
No,
I don't know why.
He's Dinger. What are you talking about, Dean? He's Dinger.
He's never Dean.
He's Dinger. His character's name is Dinger. There's no other name used for the character.
They never call it. Oh, shit. I swear. I got to tell you, it sounded like Dean a few times the way he was spoken by other people, and then he was also called Dinger. So I'm going to go back and review the tape.
Yeah, you go ahead and go ahead and rewatch this movie again. Why not? But maybe they call him Ding for short or something, but his name's Dinger.
Yeah, it is Dinger, but I just thought I heard Dean a few times, so it blew my mind. That's all I thought.
It could be the character's real name, and like maybe a teacher calls him Dean or something. I just didn't pick up on it. It's possible.
So Corey Feldman looked weird to me. There's a lot of close-ups of Corey Feldman in this movie, and for some reason he looked a lot worse than I recalled him in other films. He looked more haggard. I don't know. He didn't look as pretty as he's looked in his previous films. It seemed like maybe they wanted to do this on purpose, but also it's a movie, so I don't know. Then I dove into it. It turns out, hey, he's on heroin and he was having some hard times. So
was he? That explains. Yeah. He does look pallid and like not well. He looks kind of sick.
Yeah. Because even Leanne said last night, like, oh, I thought he was the cute one. What happened? I was like, yeah, well, I don't know.
He doesn't look well, and that explains a lot. Also, watching old VHS movies that were like you used to watching VHS, and now you're watching on high def. I mean, like, I'm watching the movie. I'm like, man, the makeup person just did a terrible job through this whole movie.
But they mailed it in. What the hell?
We're probably not supposed to be able to see that well.
So on the surface, this surface film is like, there's a moment in time where this bike accident / guy's running. He just wants to run home. He's so excited, but unfortunately, Dinger's got a cast, which happened in real life. They had to turn that into his character because Corey Haim and his mom got in a motorbike accident in real life, so then he had to wear it for the whole movie.
And that's why they blamed it on his mom in the movie, I guess.
Yeah, which is, wow, the next level. But this moment happens while Robards and his wife are doing their transcendental meditation thing in the yard, and then boom, everything changes. But the reason I bring this up is this movie has a lot of spirituality and like beyond the surface discussion and viewpoints, especially stems from Robards' character. Like, he's this guy who's trying to find this world between the dream world and reality and wants to live forever. And that is interesting. That is.
Oh yeah. It's a lot more existential than, similar kind of movies. For instance, I mean, and then in cerebral, I mean, I don't remember there being any quotes by Robert Green Ingersoll or Oscar Wilde in, Dream, or in like Father Like Son, or vice versa for that matter. But there's very like some heavy stuff going on, but it's also so hodgepodge and weird. It's like this, here, we're going to do some Eastern stuff. We're going to have some like Tai Chi stuff, but we're not going to really explain. He's just meditating a lot. He's meditating a lot and he's doing some Tai Chi, and somehow that's going to make him transport he does seem like he wants to transport his body into a youthful person because he's trying to like make them live forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very slipshod.
I think what you're describing here also leads into this film being all over the place.
Over the place.
So how do you define the editing of this film? Because it's obviously intentional, but how do you encapsulate it?
Well, Eric, our co-host, I believe he said it's the worst editing he's ever seen in a motion picture.
Right. But it's intentional. It's not like, at least I believe it's done so blatantly that it is intentional.
Like, give me some, like, what specifically are you referring to?
Like the 3-second shot of Meredith Salinger beginning her aerobic dance exercise in the beginning of the film. Then it cuts to the panning over to the restaurant on the balcony slowly. Like, it's literally like 3 seconds, like boop, boop, boop. That's one example, I would say. So.
I feel like as I'm watching the movie, I think to myself, I wonder if Mark Rocco is doing the editing and not letting the editor do the editing, or if they got like some sort of discount editor. Maybe it's the first time editing a movie. It's noticeably bad editing. Like it's rare that you would, like, that's the thing, is like you're not supposed to notice the editing. You're supposed to like watch a movie and chalk everything, all the brilliance, up to the director and not notice all the work that the editor is doing. But if they do a shit job like this, you do start to be like, what's with the pacing, what's with this, what's going on here, like what's happening here, this is so piecemeal. And there's a lot of that going on in the movie for sure.
But he's trying to blend the two worlds, so I understand that was probably his intention, but then it fails miserably, I think, in terms of the editing.
Especially in the beginning, I think it kind of calms down once the transfer of consciousnesses takes place, because in the first part of the film, they're trying to like draw these parallels between Coleman and Bobby and between Lainey and Gina, and so they're like have like we'll talk about something and they'll cut to someone else, and someone else is like in a different scene is going to finish a similar conversation. And they're doing all this stuff trying to show the parallels between their lives that exist before even the event. But it's not done expertly, I would say. And it comes across instead as like a movie coming out of a blender.
I think I have less of a problem with the editing. The editing's got its issues, but I understand his intent. It doesn't destroy me and it doesn't ruin it for me.
Same.
But the acting, some of the acting is Hall of Fame bad in this film. And I'm going to give you one example right off the bat. Okay, William McNamara, who plays Joel.
What? That's the first one that comes to mind. You don't say that William McNamara is with the finger pointing, with all the finger pointing. You're going to tell me
he's got an alcohol problem. It's just portrayed so, I don't know. It reminds me of like when I made films with I made movies with our home video camera with my brothers and stuff back in Detroit in the early 90s. And they were just stupid movies where the acting was just piecemeal gibberish. It was just fighting. It was a lot of fighting. But it reminded me of that. I'm like, oh my God, Mr. McNamara, you're so bad as Joel. You're supposed to have this alcohol problem. You're supposed to be like this pissed off guy who is like just wants to fuck Meredith Salinger, but he doesn't appreciate her for who she is, and then he gets violent with her. But like it's done in such a way that the way he expresses it, emotes himself, just doesn't exist. In a way, it's almost like it actually works on like a weird meta level because it's so absurd that like a teenager actually would be this bad or confusing in a way, almost, but not quite.
It's distractingly bad acting. It's so bad that I'm watching the movie, the other night. And I'm like, what the fuck else? Tell me this was the beginning and end of this person's career, because it's terrible.
Oh.
And I look it up and I'm like, oh shit, that's right. He was the bad guy in Copycat, and he wasn't even great in that either. And he's done some other stuff since, and I'm like, he must have like a father in the business or something.
Yes.
I can't act. I don't think it's fair typically for me to judge actors too harshly, but as a sports guy, you know that you can tell if someone's good at playing football or whatever, even if you couldn't do it. And watching this movie, what were they thinking allowing this? How do you not record like 2 days with this guy and then be like, we need to do some reshoots, guy playing Dumas, we're gonna have you jump in and play this role, play the role of Joel instead, because that would actually make sense, because you actually do have some kind of like hard edges about you. Man.
Yep.
Yeah, misfire casting.
I'm sorry, William McNamara, but I hope your life is okay now. I think he's alive. Mark Rocco, he's probably real estate. Yeah, he's probably an agent right now.
Can't be doing film.
No, he probably is doing some. He's probably like made an appearance in somebody's shitty nostalgia reimagining of something because everything gets a reboot or a new opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised if he appeared,
what he did.
at least in a tiny, tiny role.
I think he probably went and started like the world's tiniest cult somewhere in like Southern California.
Yeah, he may have done that. The director, Mark Rocco, is dead, by the way. He died in 2009. And I just wanted to mention that because, good luck in life, in the afterlife. Mark Rocco, we'll miss you. But he also directed... He directed Murder in the First. Like, so he did do, which is like a legitimate film, at least, even if it's not. I mean, it's weird. That was his last directorial effort in 95. Yeah. That was it.
But quite a few people have passed since this movie. Alex Rocco has also passed. I think Victoria Jackson. No, she's passed too, right?
I feel like she did die. Yeah,
I could be wrong. And of course, obviously, Corey Haim is no longer with us. A lot of people have not survived this movie, but it is starting to be, it's a few decades old now. So that's what happens.
Victoria Jackson's still alive. Let's update that. Sorry.
All right.
Yay! According to Wikipedia, which doesn't always tell the truth. But we haven't really talked about the two Coreys. I guess we have to talk about the two Coreys because it's a two Coreys movie.
Yeah.
What do we say? What is there to say that hasn't already been said about these two gentlemen at this point in cinema?
Did you know they had bad lives? I know that Corey. Yeah, I heard a rumor. I know that Corey Feldman
came by recently
to your house.
He did.
Why?
He came by the Token Lounge. He played the Token Lounge a couple months ago. I think I even might have messaged you like, "Hey guys, should we go?" But I think people thought it was like, no, it's too sad. I'm like, oh, it is. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to go see Corey Feldman at a venue designed to hold 50 people in the suburbs of Detroit. It does. I mean, and I've seen like his band. The music is terrible. It's just depressing. I feel bad for the guy. I can't help but feel. I mean, like, he tried to like. There was a minute that clearly things have happened to the man. I believe him. I believe that he was severely fucked up by this industry. I absolutely believe him. I know that some of the claims he's made about Corey Haim's life, that like Haim's Haim's mother and sister have denied and said it like that he's out and that he's like not well, that didn't happen. But I'm willing to believe that something happened to both these young men. And certainly, if nothing else, the drugs at a young age did not help them. I know he wasn't thrilled that Corey Haim was actually cast in this movie. He was trying to separate himself and like distinguish himself and kind of start his own career, which I understand that too. But also, if he was like
you could see that.
Oh yeah, he really is going big in this movie. Like he's clearly like, I'm the star. I'm like, here, let me do all. I feel like he probably dressed himself in most of this because fashion is a big part of this movie, and I really strong. Like we know how he is about fashion in real life, so I think that is a lot of like him. And there's just like, what about the fucking scene where he's like in the bleachers watching Meredith Salinger dance, and then he just goes, hey, and they start like, and he does like the worst Michael Jackson moves you've ever seen, and it's just like 5 minutes of him just buffooning around and like what does this serve in the plot at all? Like you get a feeling that he was a big star and could kind of like tell people at the time that like, let's do this. I want to do this. Let's do that. I want to do that.
Yeah. And Mark Rocco's like, oh, great. My dad was in the business and he's got enough pull to get me to be the director of this movie, but I still have to listen to Corey Feldman. Right. So it's at the time. I mean, it's 89. Feldman. I mean, it's filmed in 88, likely. Very, very powerful. Corey Feldman, Lost Boys, everything. I mean, this is Corey. I feel bad for Corey Haim because I actually like Corey Haim's performance in this. He does what he does. That he's just. That's Corey Haim. He makes his quips, and he's got that, I'm Corey Haim. And he's got a lot of good lines, though, about being a friend. And when he's trying to stop Joel in the car from being, by the way, I didn't remember the gun thing at all. I was like, oh, my God, there's a gun in this movie, and Joel's going to go crazy with a gun? That was just, I had forgotten about that entirely. But Corey Haim was really trying to be a friend, and I'm like, oh, wow, he's actually trying to be a good friend here to Joel, who doesn't even deserve it, but hey, that's cool. Good. Corey Haim was rock solid this film. He is put off to the side. Corey Feldman has this, he rages out in the one scene with his parents where he's playing, it's Jason Robards as Corey Feldman. I actually think Corey Feldman did a really good job of expressing the wisdom and experience of being the Robards character within his body. I actually thought he did.
Not at all. I so disagree.
Or is it just the words?
It's the writing, I think, sure, but when it comes like when he wakes up in the body of Bobby, his response, he looks at himself in the mirror for a minute and goes, "Oh, okay," and then just kind of like runs out, and then just like he's hardly surprised. We like there's not a lot of whatever going on, and he's just acting like Corey Feldman the whole time. As I'm watching the movie, there's no. He doesn't try and walk like an older person. He doesn't try and move like an older person. He doesn't try and change his cadence with the way he talks or like anything. It's just, I mean, the only things that we get that are remotely like the Coleman character are in the dialogue, and that's it. There's no change whatsoever in Bobby other than like his dress.
Yeah, I guess I saw it a little differently. I did. I thought the words are clearly what make the separation of the character seem more realistic, if you want to use that word. But I thought when he is talking to his teacher, hey, what's wrong with you? Why can't, by the way, his teacher grabs him by the shirt in the collar and sits him down. I'm like, well, can you do that? I don't think you can do that.
No, you don't want to do that.
Also, with Corey Haim and Mr. Feldman, by the way, the movie opens with this extremely excruciatingly long improv of the two of them pontificating like they're like it's my dinner with Andre. Great music. I do like the music. I like the cuts and the music. But it's not my dinner with Andre. It is these two young kids who don't know shit about shit, and they're trying to pontificate, smoke their cigarettes like they know about life and the existential dilemmas of existence and love and yada yada yada. It's a fun dichotomy the way it's set up in the opening, but what they're saying is like, oh my god, you guys just look like assholes.
Yeah, well, teenagers, and like Hollywood, written by Hollywood teenagers. But yeah, that opening sequence is, it's a little.
It's long too.
The movie's long. I reread, as always. I reread my notes right before we started the podcast, and I actually made two notes to myself, both the same note. I didn't realize I made it twice, which is how is there so much movie left?
Oh man, we've all had that feeling.
I'm watching the movie like they're clearly edging up towards the climax now, and then I hit pause. I'm like, there's 40 minutes left. The climax is like a moment away. Like they're clearly right there, but no, they're gonna.
That's why they had to do the whole Joe gun in an alley thing, and then oh my god, so
the speech.
Corey Feldman at his finest, his finest hour.
It is the worst speech. Literally, he's like, hey, fuck you. You have a gun. Fuck you. Point at me. Fuck you. And fuck you. And that's pretty that's like the speech.
I actually thought he was going to get shot. I had remembered the film like, oh, that's what happens in like Robards Can't Get Back to Reality because he gets shot. But that's not what happened. Spoiler alert. So
it almost should have been what happened.
I wrote down, okay, so maybe it wasn't great acting. And yeah, it was just like a who gives a shit. Hey, you got a gun? Who cares? Take it or leave it. Let's go get a beer.
Yeah, the dialogue.
But then he forgets about how important Lainey can't fall asleep is, who gets drugged by her own mother, by the way, and a stepdad/boyfriend with the worst haircut ever.
Yeah, and mustache. He comes booking into the house. He breaks into the house. I mean, he races up, but like right before that, like we literally see him like drinking beers with his boys. So like he's gonna rush over there after he's done with his beer. He's gonna run and like it's all super dramatic. Like we were just
let's go chill. Beer. Oh, wait, let's have a sense of urgency. Those are two separate things entirely on the spectrum. Oh, my God, that makes no sense.
And that speaking of editing, that kind of thing happens frequently throughout the film where like this mood is set or this tone is set. And then like the next scene, you're like, wait, what?
I wrote down here, express yourself to a guy in a meaningful way and you're gay.
That means you're gay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell someone that you care about their friendship, and that means you're gay. We did get some F slurs in here, but it is an 80s movie featuring like high schoolers. So.
Not shocking whatsoever, but I thought that was funny. What about Jason Robards agreeing to do this movie? Because he opens the scene. He also actually opens the movie too with his little dance on the stage, and he's just hamming it up.
Oh man, he opens the movie dancing on stage, and then he closes the movie dancing on stage, and both times does some of the worst lip syncing I've ever seen anyone do. I mean, it's bad. Like, I mean, he's just like talking. Like, he's clearly not like his mouth closes and like the music's still going on. The lyrics still going on. It's just like he maybe doesn't have the rhythm for what they're trying to make him do. It's pretty funny.
So, how did he get into this project? How do you imagine this happen?
I can only assume that either, again, like Piper Laurie is in this shit, Harry Dean Stanton is in this shit, and Jason Robards is in this. So I can only assume that one of them got pulled in by Alex Rocco somehow, and then they kind of convinced the other two, like, oh, Harry's doing it and Piper's doing it. Okay, I'll jump in. It might be like, for one, it's like an existential thing, and the kids are going to see it, so I'll get paid well to see it, and maybe I can hang out with my friends.
It was a busy year for him. He did Parenthood that year as well, and a couple other movies. So it looks like he was really churning out the movies in the late 80s. In fact, from 87 up until 90, he did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 movies before he did Quick Change in 1990.
Oh yeah, he played I can't think of the character's name, but I loved him in Quick Change. Chief
Rutzinger.
Ratzinger. Yeah, that's
Ratzinger.
Right. Ratzinger. How old was he when he did this movie? Probably 60 or so, I would guess.
Yeah.
Or at least
he died in 2000. He was born in 22, so he was almost 70. Yeah, he was almost 70.
Yeah, he's pushing 70. So probably he was thinking, my expectation is like, I've only got so much time left to make money and do movies. I mean, like honestly, we just saw Bruce Willis do a similar thing where he knew that his time was running out, and everyone's like, why is he doing all these shit movies? But he's got to like make hay while the making's good. And that's
a good point.
Probably what he was doing too.
That's a great point. That's fair. Also, and he was still doing, like, Quick Change is a good movie. I like Parenthood, that. So they were hit or miss. They can't all be winners, and he was still doing good movies at certain points. He was just working. So.
Magnolia was still years away.
Yeah, exactly. He did Philadelphia in 93 too. So he had a few more in him.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's just funny that he's in this movie, but it makes more sense when you kind of lay out the possibilities of how movies come together like this. And I just imagine a bunch of people showed up to this set, maybe never even saw each other a lot. Like, how many scenes are Robards and Feldman actually in together? Just really the dream sequences. And by the way, what's that red shit they spray on the lawn? It's not water. Is that like a chemical? I didn't understand what that was.
The Crimson Tide. I assume it's some sort of either like plant, like a plant feeder, like a flower feeder, or like a weed killer, one or the other.
Okay.
Some sort of chemical that gets sprayed all over them. But yeah, we see them in the opening sequence, like always at the house. So pretty much every other than the outro of them dancing on stage together, I believe every sequence that the two of them are in are all at that same house. So probably the two of them, Robards probably showed up for, this is what, like a, 6-week shoot, 7-week shoot. He probably showed up for like 4 weeks and just stayed at that, not at the house, but like that was the shooting location the whole time. Cause almost everything that Robards does is literally there. And so he probably just did all of his shit first and got it all out of the way, and then went on to make his other movies while the kids went and finished the movie.
He did go to the restaurant. That's the only other one I can think of.
You're right. There's the date too, because like they do like this terrible date where they do the classic like drinking of wine thing that no one ever does. How do you cross your arms and then drink together at the same time? Yeah. So there is that weird date that they do. Time goes on. that date.
It's a great soundtrack. We get a lot of Dream a Little Dream. We get other songs.
Many takes of Dream a Little Dream.
Many. Yes, many takes. We get End of the World. We get by REM, End of the World as We Know It, which I don't know. Maybe that song became more famous after the fact. It would have cost. Seems like it would have cost a lot of money to get that song, but
it would have. That song was the hit that got REM, like that took them out of college radio and into the upper echelon. Because that's why Out of Time was so well received. Otherwise, they wouldn't have paid attention to it, because that song and the One I Love were both pretty decent, pretty well received singles at the time, which was well before '89. But at the same time. That song was so indicative or like ubiquitous, I think I mean to say, through the era, right? Like so if you're gonna have like a high school movie, it almost seems like, well, we gotta have this song. It's the song.
And just like every other 80s high school type movie, there's got to be a big dance and a big dance scene where everybody's really good at dancing. There's that big wide shot of the whole gym and everyone's dancing like professionals. It's just so funny. It's classic 80s.
Always with a flask. Someone's got a blatant flask on the dance floor, treating the high school like it's a goddamn bar and like like a club. And they're all so adult. Why are you hanging out at the bridge, which is clearly a bar, like some sort of alley bar? They just go to this alley and just like park there and drink their beers. I don't know. It's very adultish in a lot of ways. Some of the things that they're doing in this movie.
Oh man, wow.
Also,
what else? Anything else we haven't covered?
What's more romantic than taking a woman on a date and getting up on the hood of your car and like looking out at the sky over a river while you are next to a garbage can fire?
Beautiful.
Garbage can fire is very romantic, I thought.
Teenage romance in a nutshell, my friend. I mean, just a gorgeous evening. And of course, you slowly see headlights coming your way. You don't think much of it until, of course, they bash open the door and knock you down and then beat the shit out of you, and it's cool.
I'm going to run straight towards this car that's coming towards me, and I'm going to make sure I'm like feet away, inches away from it as it drives by me.
Yep. And dumbass is going to say, I'd rather jerk off.
I'd rather jack off.
Which is the biggest lie of all time. If Meredith Salinger came up to you and said, I want to make love to you, dumbass, don't lie to us. Get real. But you are a dumbass, so.
Well, what is the relationship between Dumas and these people anyway?
No one knows.
Are they friends? Are they not friends? At one point, like they talk about, I mean, there's a scene when Joel is like walking up with his lunch and Dumas just comes up and starts eating off of his tray and Joel doesn't blink an eye. I'm like, Psycho Joel is supposed to be like a hard on and be angry all the time. Like, why is he allowing his bitter rival and enemy to just eat French fries off of his plate?
Because it makes no sense. That's the whole point here. You've just got to nailed on is these friendships. Are these people friends? Are Joel and Bobby Keller really friends? Are these people connected in any real meaningful way? Because I just never really see how that ever developed in the first place. Yeah, and I really don't see much of a difference between Dumas and those people at all.
Right. And Dinger is friends with Bobby clearly, but he could give a shit about Joel because he's constantly telling Bobby like, hey, don't sleep with our friend. Don't try and make out with our friend's girlfriend or trying to steal our friend. It's like, hey, he's going to beat you up. He's going to hurt you out of a sense of self-preservation. So it's very much, but maybe that's a point they're trying to make about high school and those relationships.
Yeah, see, that's the thing though. That's the thing is you could interpret it that way. Like I said earlier, it's like, oh, wow, he's so absurd and teenagers can be absurd in their decision-making and they don't know what to do and they think they know everything all at once. You're right. But I don't know. I'll leave it open to interpretation, but I think maybe our final thoughts will be the judge of this. Is there anything else though that we haven't covered on this that we need to talk about, like notes wise?
I feel like we have gone through it really fast, but at the same time, I don't know how deep the movie is. Really, it's faux deep. I don't know what else that we really need to say. I know that at one point I made like Dinger's got this great Vietnam Army jacket that he wears for the whole thing. I remember like, oh fuck, I had one of those. I had like an authentic
Vietnam definitely
Army coat that I used to wear like in middle school and like early, like, and I lost it. Like, what an asshole I am to have lost something like that. And the guy that gave it to me, I feel really bad. He was actually the guy that recorded "Dream a Little Dream" for me on VHS. So watching the movie was fun though, because it definitely brought up stuff like that. There's lots of memories that came up watching the movie that I had seen. So, like I mentioned, the memory about our friend Brandon, and that kind of stuff. So it brought up a lot of stuff for me because it was very much in a very specific time of my life, which I am grateful for that.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw Travis, he was absolutely wearing that green jacket.
Really?
On the bus. Oh, yeah. All the way, man. I can see you right now on that bus with that green jacket on.
I could have gone down a whole nother road being the kind of guy that showed up to high school wearing an Army jacket. I'm glad I didn't become a dangerous
I'm really
person.
glad you did. Yeah, I'm glad that it was for the best, I think. But yeah, this is the type of movie where I don't actually connect to it when I think of my own high school memories. Like other movies I have, I'm like, oh man, that really reminds me of my friends and I, or some events. It doesn't have that same effect to me when I think about how these people interact in the daily routine of high school. It's not as done in an awful way in this film. Like some high school classrooms, the way they're set up and like how everyone is just in misery. Like it's not always just like that. Like we're all trying to get through it, but not everyone's like, ugh. Like people are actually paying attention a little bit and are engaging in some conversations. It's a mixed bag. And this movie, actually did okay when it had a classroom layout and it had teachers, but it also didn't show teachers as like these all-knowing people either. They're just kind of there facilitating things, which I thought was cool.
Well, that was one of the things that was kind of interesting about the movie too, is that we get a lot of Bobby's parents and a bit of Laney's parents, and of course we get the older people like Stanton and Cole and Robards' character and stuff. But in a lot of ways, like parents and like parental and authority figures are kind of missing from the movie. They're here, but they're not. Like even when they're there, like the point is partly that they are divorced from being like they're not engaged in their kids' lives. I mean, literally, like Bobby's parents like talk to each other instead of him and stuff. And that actually, I agree. Not much of this rings home to me in terms of like my high school experience, but by the time we were seniors, while I had good relationships with both my parents and they spoke directly to me as I'm a person, there was still very much not a ton of oversight, as I think we discussed last episode when we were talking about mid-90s. And there was this feeling at times where like, hey, like we might as well be at a club. We might as well be adults. We certainly acted like it, even if we weren't. And sometimes that could lead to, for us, it never led to a situation where someone was pointing a gun at someone. But you do take things at that age like super fucking seriously when you don't necessarily need to. So I kind of thought that some of that stuff actually rang surprisingly true.
Oh, just because William McNamara, who played Joel, was a terrible actor, the actual character with the gun is saying, I'm not taking no shit from anybody anymore. And the fact that he was drunk, it's not ridiculous.
It's a party. Who's got chips? Right?
That's actually a good line. It's too bad. That was the one thing I'll give you, Mr. McNamara. That was actually all right.
Yeah, that was the best
delivery
that he had.
I had a minor chuckle on that one. I'll admit that. It was memorable enough.
The way it's so awkwardly said, though, even still, it's like, man.
Yeah, McNamara. The way his physicality, it just doesn't exist. He's like he's saying lines and there's no physicality to it at all. But poor Joel, poor William McNamara. I'll always feel for him, and I always will. By the way, you talk about the parents, and Laney's mom is just like the worst. I don't even know what's going on there. Like
the wine and pill diet is what's going on.
When she popped up with that pill and she drugged her own child, which is literally what happens in this movie.
And like internalized misogyny also is going on. Like she's a very disturbing character.
Yeah, it's really bizarre and uncomfortable to see the scenes between them because you're wondering, what's the issue here? What happened? Like they're trying to make her seem like a cold, frigid bitch, but then she says herself like, maybe I could have been more warm, which is like something maybe a guy would have written, not that she would have said. So I kind of felt bad for the way that was set up, but then like that guy showed up with his mullet and his mustache, and he was a terrible actor too. He was a horrendous actor. I don't know who that guy was, but oh my God, was he bad.
He looked like Rob Reiner, but it wasn't Rob Reiner. That's all I can really say. Like a young Rob Reiner.
A blonde. Right, young one.
Yeah. Should we do our final thoughts?
Well, you've selected this film, Travis, so why don't you send us off?
I'm glad to have revisited the movie. I've been wanting to revisit for some time. I'm not 100% convinced that it needed the full Cinema 9 treatment, but I've been wanting to see it, and I wanted to throw out a wild card. I wanted to, just kind of mix it up, do something kind of weird. I'd thrown out a couple movies in a row that I felt like I was pretty confident how they were going to pan out. Like when we did Michael Clayton, like I knew that was going to hold up. So I thought I'd just kind of see how this one goes. And again, fun to revisit. I think Corey Haim was actually a pretty decent actor in a lot of ways, and didn't get to do as much as maybe he could have done with his talent. I always love seeing Harry Dean Stanton do stuff, even if I'm watching the movie, I'm like, why are you not interacting with Bobby more? Why are you taking one walk with this guy? What, like, you know what I mean? Like, why are they not like, if you believe him, why are you not like part of the day-to-day anyway? So I had complaints about the movie. It brought back some nostalgic moments. As a film, objectively speaking, it does not hold up at all.
Oh, no.
Oh, Bud.
Oh, Bud, no. Corey Haim is an excellent comedic actor. I think he could do comedy for years, and I wondered what it would have been like the more adultish he became, what kind of comedic actor he would have been. I don't know if maybe the boyish charm would have gone away and it would have taken away from some of that or not, but I mean, he had a young look, and because he was young, but even as he was getting a little bit older, he was a youthful-looking guy, and And he's fun. He's funny. Corey Haim is fun. Feldman, you got the vibe, like you said earlier. You want to take himself a little too seriously. Yeah. And it's nothing wrong with that. You want to push yourself and you think you can do things. You got to try. And if you fail, then you'll find out.
Do you have to dress up like that and dance? Like, you don't have to do that in your movies.
Well, you talked about things that happened to him, and he dresses up like Michael Jackson. He's obsessed with Michael Jackson. He knew Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson had his own issues. We have no idea. We're not going to give you specific examples here on the show, but clearly, I agree with Travis. Something happened to Corey Feldman in his life, and I believe Corey Haim too, because you mentioned he turned to drugs. Yes, you could say, okay, there's a lot of child actors who didn't turn to drugs who are adult actors now. There's actually a bunch of them, and some of them are really good.
Many.
Yeah. It's like almost weird, actually. It's like, good God.
A lot more of like actors that are big now. You're like, oh, like Jesse Plemons was a child actor. I'm like, really? Jesse Plemons was a child actor? I didn't see any of that, but sure enough.
Right. Christian Bale. He's a child actor. He was.
Exactly.
So who can say what would have happened? But I do feel bad for those guys. But, this is about rating the movie and looking at it. And you find a few highlights if you want. And I love nostalgia as much as anybody. But, yeah, I mean, this movie's... It's not something I'm chomping at the bit to go back and watch again. I'm like, oh, man, I got to really figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, I don't think. You could play around with it you want. I think there's great concepts here about existence and our lives and how we intersect and, spirituality and the different planes of existence that we're on. But it's done so hodgepodgely and poorly that you really we could give you a lot better examples of other films that you could dive into again or for the first time. So, yeah, it doesn't hold up. And Eric felt the same way. I mean, Eric said it was awful or something. I
believe he called it one of the worst pieces of shit he'd ever seen. We didn't mention it, but like at the end of the movie, this is important. We should mention this. At the end of the movie, for one, how the fuck does Coleman wake up dressed in his living room, like in his lazy boy, where he'd been having a dream? So like, was it all a dream? But we're still like, we hear Corey Feldman's character be like, oh, by the way, none of the stuff I told you really mattered, and it didn't happen. Like there are actually no stakes to any of this, but it made for a good story. Ha! And it's like, what the fuck? That's not how you end
total blow off. Total blow off.
That's worse than it was all a dream movie. It was like it all didn't matter movie.
Yes, you're right. We should. I'm so glad you brought that up because I guess by that point I was like, who cares? But you're right. Yeah. That is just the cherry on top for the disaster of like, hey, fuck it. Who cares about the viewer?
Right. We got paid. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's take this all the way home, boys. Eric said, good luck. I watched about half of the film before my, he has some stuff going on that he was, It was one of the worst pieces of shit I had ever seen in my life. And this is coming from a two Corys fan. So, yeah. Also, Luke was watching the movie for the show on Thursday, and he said, great, now I don't have to finish this piece of shit. People seem to be... They're rushing to judgments. I mean, guys, finish the film.
It doesn't get better as it goes along, unfortunately.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. I mean, we just literally said it doesn't hold up. So who are we kidding here?
When I started the movie, I was like, fuck, it's 2 hours. How is this 2 hours?
I'm glad it was a Friday night and I had nothing to do. It was the one time where I would be like, oh, I don't care how long this is because I'm just going to be sitting here playing video games anyway. So excellent video game compliment film. I will say that. So
you're taking notes, paying close attention.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did. I wrote down the notes that mattered, and that was like 5 things. So, there it is. We did it. 7-9 pod. There it is, Travis. We went back in time. We covered a part of your upbringing, and I hope you had a good time with it.
I did.
Seems like you understand its place in history. Yeah, it was fun to go back and look at it.
Even if it was a bad movie, it'd be fun to talk about. So
it was definitely, I got a few laughs out of it. That's all I care about. So it was wonderful to talk about this film with you. And you guys can talk about any film with us. cinemanipod@gmail.com. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. Spotify, you can rate us 5 stars as well. That's been around for a while now. And subscribe to the YouTube. Before we leave, we got to give Eric's selection, Travis. And I hold that in my hand right here.
I don't.
I know. Sometimes you get to know. It's fun. It's fun to be on the other side.
Yeah.
Either side, really.
So I wait with bated breath.
Well,
next week we're watching.
I'll read Eric's text verbatim.
Okay.
Anyways was after he was ripping Dream a Little Dream more. So He did. I'll say this too. He said 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. One of the worst films I've ever seen. First 30 minutes is completely incoherent. Okay.
Incoherent is a good word for this movie.
That's fair.
All over the fucking place.
Even though Eric doesn't have that nostalgic love, he's right about that. Probably.
Had he ever seen it before? Had he ever seen it? He
didn't mention that. No, he didn't say.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
it was a movie that came out when he was a child, so I assume he didn't ever watch it until this week.
It was only rated PG, so he could have seen it.
Yeah, but it had like women in it. I mean, at one point there's a woman in a leotard. I don't know if that would fly in the Brandstrom household.
I gotta tell you, I love 80s female attire. I would love to see a comeback on that stuff. I just think women look great in those 80s outfits, man.
During that time when the male gaze was widely celebrated, you're right. Was in keeping with that.
Those aerobics outfits are classic. I just love those. All right,
leg warmers are hot on any woman though. Yeah,
I would agree with that entirely.
Yeah.
Anyways, my selection for next week is a film from 1999. We're going back to what some people say is the greatest year of film of all time. That's not what I say. It's what some people say.
I didn't say it.
I didn't say it either. I'm just saying. Someone said it. We're
said
going to watch from 1999, Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, starring Forrest Whitaker.
All right. We haven't done any Jarmusch films yet. That's good. He's been a director that we've been kind of neglecting. I was going to do Broken Flowers at one point. I was going to do Down by Law at one point. Now we'll do Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai. Awesome.
I have never seen this film, so.
Oh, no? I actually saw it when I was living with you, I believe.
Oh, I might have passed by you watching it, but I never sat down to watch the film in its entirety. So
I think, but definitely seen it, but it's been since it was new. Oh, no, because if it was 99, that would have been, no, I wasn't living with you when I saw it. I take that back. But anyway, yeah, I've seen it. It's been a long time. I'm ready to revisit. Yeah,
I got a lot of things to say about Jarmusch, so we'll talk about him next week. And I'm sure he'll inspire a lot of discussion for better or for worse. And that's what we do here on Cinema and iPod. He's Travis Roy. I'm Michael Govier. We wish Eric have a great weekend. Enjoy your life. Congratulations, Luke, on your new child. And we'll catch you guys next time.
Wake up, or you're going to lose that girl. Beatles, 1965.